Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to our go-to meeting for this June 17th. I just hit the record button, so we're going to record this. If you can't make it, or if you want to see this again, I will post this, hopefully send it out sometime later today, the recording of it, and post it as well. Basically what I want to talk about today is one, the midterm, which is coming up next week, and two, just how things are going in general. I have a list of topics on the next page, but since I have the midterm to start with, we'll start talking about the midterm. If at any time you have any questions, just go ahead and type it in the chat box. Hopefully I won't forget to look there. So the midterm is next week. I believe that's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, June 24th through June 26th. And if I pause like that, I'm just sending a message to somebody. So it's not that I'm forgetting what I say. So the midterm is next week. It's June 24th through June 26th. It's not a 3-day event. It only lasts for 2 hours, or it may not even last that long. You get 2 hours to take it. You need to sign up to take the midterm. A lot of you have done that already. You have to sign up with Kimberly Vector at 448-6401, or you can email her, kvector@wpcc.edu. I think she's out for a couple of days this week, but she's pretty good at getting back to people. But like I said, I think she's out a couple of days this week, but she'll get back to you when she comes back in. If you wish to take it at an off-campus site, an approved testing center, you're more than welcome to do that as well. If you live far away, there's no need to come into Western Piedmont to take it. You need to hunt down an approved proctoring center and send me that info by Friday. All right, so Friday's the cutoff, so I can go ahead and send the midterm and the academic verification paper to that proctoring site. So that would be done by Friday. It works fairly well. Last semester I had a couple people do that. It's really no problem at all. It's just a matter of you finding that site, and there's a link on our course syllabus document for where you can search for a site depending on what your location is, and then you give me the contact information and I send it to that person. It's that simple. Typically community colleges are testing centers, and also universities. Sometimes they charge though, so you have to be careful of that. Obviously you're responsible for any costs that may come up with that. I encourage you to bring your calculator to the midterm. No cell phones are allowed, so you can't use your cell phone calculator. All you need is a scientific calculator. If for some reason you don't have one, they can put you on a computer and let you use the one on a computer. But if you have one, you want to bring it because that's the one you're used to using. All right, so it makes sense. There is a 2-hour time limit on the midterm. I sent you out a formula sheet for the midterm, and let me just show you where that's at. I'm multitasking here. So if under your Moodle, I sent you announcements. I don't know if you realize this, but I added this latest news block. So every time I send an announcement out, I try to send it out as an email as well. I have to click the little box to send it out as an email, which I try. But the last 3 announcements are posted under the latest news. But if you go under older topics, you can get all of them. So if I click on that, just to show you where that formula sheet is, this message where it says sign up for midterm, and I give you basically the same info I just gave you. Right there is an attachment for the midterm formula sheet. That will be provided for you on the midterm. So when you come in, they'll give you that with the midterm. You want to make sure you're familiar with that. And I noticed in starting to correct the grammar lab, which I'm seeing a lot of good discussion on the Moodle forums, which I'll talk about in a second. Some of you did not use those conversion factors, which I didn't mark wrong, but when you take the midterm, that's the only thing you can have access to, so you're going to have to use them. So I would encourage you to get familiarize yourself with that formula sheet. All right. So make sure you do the formula sheets. Now, the best way to study for this is your practice tests, and I'm going to show you where the practice tests are. So I'm going to get on WebAssign. I'm in student view right now. So under student view on WebAssign, if you look at the practice unit 1 test and the practice unit 2 test, basically we're doing 2 units the first half, 2 units the second half. So if you look at those 2 unit tests, practice unit 1, practice unit 2, in addition to your labs and your homework, I think you would be in good shape. Yeah, pencil, yeah, Brian, bring pencils, yep. Doesn't necessarily have to be number 2, but it's not a, the test, that's a good question. Ryan asked, should we bring number 2 pencils? It's not, the test is where you have to, I give you a question, you have to show your work and come up with an answer. It's not a multiple choice test or anything like that, so you're not going to be bubbling in anything. You're going to get the same test our CETA class does. So you come in, you're going to get a test that, I don't know how many pages it is. There's only a couple questions per page, but you're going to have to provide all your work and your solutions, for the question. So it's not something that's multiple choice where you bubble in. Does that make sense, Ryan? That's a good question. I didn't think about talking about the format of the test, but yeah, it's basically, I give you the questions and you show your work and come up with the solutions, and that's it. There's no true, false, or multiple choice. It's where you have to show your work. Okay. So the unit 1 and 2 tests are on the midterm, and then let me just go back here. The labs that you're doing, there'll definitely be some questions similar to things you've done on the labs, like that strategy and STD lab, which is the next one coming up. I think there's definitely a question on there that deals with, let me just pull it out here for a second. There's definitely questions on there like that strategy and STD lab. I try to get questions on all the labs on there, so I don't know why I started with that one. I did for whatever reasons. So there's definitely questions on that lab where, after you make the strategy board, like questions, 5 and 6 and 7, on that lab, where you're given, certain probabilities and you have to be able to answer the questions on it. There's definitely, I think the other lab you're working on now is the veterans lab. There are definitely questions on there where I give you a graph and you have to interpret the graph. I'm grading the grandma lab now. There's definitely some dimensional analysis on there where you have to do conversions. And I did put a medicine one on there where you have to get the right dosage. So I definitely went through and tried to pick out questions that were similar to those practice tests, the labs, and the WebAssign homework. And I think we did, I feel like we're doing a lot in here, but when it comes to sections out of the book, I think we only covered 4 or 5 sections. 1-5, the appendix, and then I think we did 3 sections out of chapter 5. So there's not a lot of sections there. So I would definitely look over those labs, do those sample tests, and then look over your homework. And I think if you did that, you'll be in pretty good shape for the midterm. And again, let me just pull that out and look at it real quick and see. Yeah, here's a question about a deck clock. We had that on, one of the labs. So definitely, we're definitely trying to make it similar to things that we've been doing in class, whether it be the labs or whether it be, the homework from WebAssign. So again, I think if you look at those 3 things, you'll be in good shape. Look and understand, there's a big difference. Yeah, definitely a dosage one. I thought there'd be one on there. Probability questions, expected value, definitely an expected value question on there. A graph where you have to interpret the information, like your Veterans Affairs lab, they ask questions about the graph. There's definitely some of those medical probability questions on there, the sensitivity and specificity and that kind of stuff, where I give you the formulas. If you look at that formula sheet, I give you the formulas for sensitivity, specificity, PPV, and NPV. So that's not bad, but you also have to be able to interpret what those give you. All right, I'm getting a couple questions popping up here. Let me just see. Okay. If I were to fail the midterm, the good hypothetical questions here, would that guarantee me to fail the class? Well, the midterm and the final are worth 45% of your grades. That's 22.5. So if you literally got a 0 on the midterm, the highest you could get was a 77.5 in a class. I've never seen anybody get a 0 in the midterm unless they just didn't show up. So, I mean, that's kind of one of those questions. You need to do, I would think if you failed both the midterm and the final, you wouldn't be able to pass. But that's one of those questions that, I can't really give a concrete answer to. Yeah, and then how much does the midterm affect our grade? It's 22.5%. Yeah, that's a good question. Where do we check our grades? Moodle, WebAssign, or both? And I actually have that as a topic we're going to discuss in a little bit, but the answer is WebAssign. And I'll show you, actually, let me just pull up WebAssign right now since I have it here. WebAssign, if I pull that up, oops, now this is my grade in here, my student view. It should be right down here at the bottom, my grade. All right, let me know if it's not there. I have not posted any grades in Moodle yet. We're learning how to use the Moodle gradebook now, and I'm experimenting it with one class, and I want to make sure I get it right. I'm experimenting with my seated class, all right, and I want to make sure I get it right before I put it on the Moodle gradebook for the online class. I'm doing it with the seated class because they can tell me every day if it's right or not, or you guys can't necessarily do that. But the WebAssign, you should see on the grades, my grade. It should show you what your overall grade is there. Okay, so check and make sure. I just checked to make sure there's something I have to click for that to show, and I did. That was clicked, so you should be able to see that. So let me know if you can't, because then we need to fix it. Let me just make sure I got all the questions, which I think I do. Okay, so let's go back and talk about the midterm a little bit as well. So, like I said, that is medical probability questions, sensitivity, specificity, PPV, and NPV, definitely going to be on there. Not only to calculate them, and calculating them is not bad, but the interpretation of what they mean. All right, so make sure you understand what each of those measures. So make sure hopefully you're watching those videos I put out there. Like I said, definitely a graph where you have to interpret information on it, kind of like the Veterans Affairs, although the graph is more, I think it's a little easier to read than the Veterans Affairs graphs, to be honest with you. Definitely some probability questions, similar to the ones in that strategy and STD lab. So I feel pretty good about the questions that are on here. Definitely an expected value question, so make sure you brush up on expected value. That's always a sore spot. Definitely a question when you have to figure out dosage like you did in the grandma lab. There's a percent increase, decrease, percent change question on there. We had that in the percent on what lab. So again, we tried to make it similar or similar in topics to the topics that you had in the labs and the practice and the labs and the homework. The practice tests are basically the homework questions picked out, some of the homework questions picked out. So any questions about the midterm for me at this point in time? Again, it's next week. It's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. feel free to give me an email if you have any questions as you start going through that stuff. So if I was studying for this midterm, I'd be looking over all my labs, doing those practice tests, and I just listed a bunch of topics on there, right? So make sure you can do all those topics as well. Get that formula sheet printed out so you're familiar with it. Again, there's a 2-hour time limit. Bring your calculator. No cell phones are allowed. And then if you haven't done so already, contact Kimberly Vector to make an appointment. And you want to do so. If you haven't done so yet, you want to do so sooner or later because there's not an infinite number of seats in there. All right. So if you really want a time, a particular time to take at, I'd be contacting her ASAP if you haven't done so already. Okay. Anything else on the midterm? Here's another question. Do people need all 2 hours for midterm? Is it enough time? I've not gotten an email saying it's not enough time, to be honest with you. I'm not up there when you take it. And they usually put the times on there. I feel like it is. Yeah, I feel like it's enough time. Usually I hear if it's not, and nobody has said anything to me yet. So, and that's something, any test that you're taking, you want to be wary of the time that you have left, and you don't want to spend a lot of time on any one question in particular. You should be able to, when you're taking a test, and this is any test, not just math, but you should be able to, when you're taking a test, read a problem and know if you know how to do it or not. If you know how to do it, go ahead and do it. If you're not sure, or if you read it and it's like, oh my gosh, what is this talking about? Skip that one. Come back to the end to do those. You want to go through them and make sure you can do all the ones you can do. And you don't want to start one you're not sure about, or it's like you get frustrated, you start spinning your wheels, you're spending all this time on it. Next thing you know, you only have 15 minutes left. Wait till the end to do those questions. Not that there's any on there with this midterm, but you should be able to be a smart test taker, I guess is what I'm saying. Any other questions on the midterm? Again, I'm recording this as well, so I'll hopefully post that later today. I got a couple, my afternoon looks a little hectic, so hopefully I can get it done. I'll post it sometime today. Okay, so let's move on to some of the other topics I'm going to talk about here. There's not a lot, just to kind of things that I wanted to mention. Your overall grade, we talked about that. You want to look on WebAssign to get your overall grade, and again, if I pull up WebAssign, it should be right down there at the bottom. All right, if you don't see it, let me know, but it should be right down there at the bottom. I have not posted any grades in Moodle yet. I may do that for this online class this summer. We're kind of experimenting with Moodle now with my stats class, my seated stats class, just because I can talk to them and make sure I'm doing things right. So that's something that the college is definitely transitioning to, and everybody's using Moodle, and everybody's going to have to use that Moodle gradebook here soon. Excel, Microsoft Excel. We're going to start using Excel in the second half of this class. So I just posted an announcement and sent it out as an email about a free download for Microsoft Suite, the Microsoft Office Suite. If you're a WPCC student, which all of you are, you get a free copy of the Office Suite, which is nice. And I literally just sent that out this morning. And I also posted it. Let me just go back to the course announcements here. I also posted it right there, Microsoft Excel. So I also posted it as well. And then there's a link, right there's a link, Microsoft Office, that you can download. Again, we will use Excel the second half. There'll be an expectation that you can use Excel, do some basic functions on Excel, do some monthly payments on Excel, and have you calculate some amortization tables on Excel. Some of the labs will have you hand in an Excel document. And on your final, you will be at the computer using, so you can use Excel as well. And there's some questions on there where you specifically cannot do them unless you know how to use Excel. All right. So if I asked you to figure out, how much of your monthly payment goes towards interest and principal on the, the 152nd payment of a 30-year loan, you ain't going to do that unless you know how to do Excel. All right, unless you have a free, couple of days to crunch all the math. Okay, so directions are pretty straightforward. 6030, 448-6030 is our IT helpline if you have trouble downloading that. Okay, let me go back to my whiteboard here. The labs, we're starting to get in the groove with this labs. Pretty much on Thursday, you hand in your individual labs, and then I put you in the groups, all right? And I want you to discuss the labs back and forth via these Moodle forums. And I just started grading the Grandma lab this morning, and I looked at 2 of them, and I'll be honest with you, some of the discussion is very good. I was really happy with the discussion there. What we talked about with the last emails, and this is kind of an evolving thing, and I think if there's an effort there, I'm going to be fairly generous with how I grade these. And don't worry if somebody in your group is not responding. People are not necessarily going to get the same grade for their Moodle forum discussions, all right? So in fact, I've experienced that already. So you're not going to be penalized if somebody in your group doesn't respond, okay? I've asked you to do 4 substantive posts, and I think I pretty much sent a detailed explanation of what that is, and we had some good examples of what is and what's not a substantive post. And also I'm looking at is I'm seeing a lot of good discussion. This is kind of my goal here, is to see some discussion back and forth about questions, particularly questions. You're going to have questions where you disagree on the answer, and that's where really I want to see the discussion at, going back and forth with each other, so you can figure out where the mistakes are, and fix that. And I've seen that in the 2 labs I've graded so far with the Grandma lab. I've seen that. These labs, grading the lab itself does not take long, but grading looking through the Moodle form, which I do look through all of your posts and read them, and I'm posting some things also there. That takes some time to do, so it's not a quick thing for me. So I'm hoping to get those done today, if not today, tomorrow, and get those back to you, and then I'll start on the protein lab. Let me just, there's another page on the labs here. Yep. So we talked about the 4 substantive posts. I'm looking for some discussion there. There's also in these labs, I noticed, and this may help out, when you post, there's a little box you can check that you get, it's called subscription notification of new posts. If you check that, you will be notified via email when there is a new post. So that may be helpful. Let me see if I can pull that up and demonstrate that for you. I haven't really looked at it here. Let me get my Moodle here. Let me just go into this class here. And let me see. Let me see if I can go in here and okay, so let me see. Let me just click on this one. This is the Grandma. It doesn't matter what lab it is, what group form it is. So if I add, I'm going to click on one of these, and I've already posted on some of these. If I decide I want to reply to one of these, I'm going to hit the reply button at the bottom. And then I can type in my message here, but right here under subscription, right there in the middle, if you go ahead and put send me notifications of new posts in this form, that may help the process out a little bit. All right, so that might be something you want to think about doing. So right under subscription, send me notification of new posts in this form. Let me just go back here. What does that mean? Let me see if I can pull my, I think I lost my whiteboard. Let me see if I can pull my whiteboard back up here. See if that comes back up. There we go. Okay. Also, I believe this is the case. I'm getting conflicting information on this. Maybe you can help me out, but you should be able to see who your participants are in a group. All right. So if I go back to that page I was just on, let me see where it was. There it was. And if you go in your group, we are surrounded by big numbers group. Let me just do that one. If you click on participants here, all right, you see where it says participants? I'm going to click on it here. Let me see what happens. I think I'll probably get everybody's name on here, all right? But you should just get, because I'm part of every group, all right? That's why I get everybody. But I believe you should just get your group members there, okay? And you can actually, I think you can actually click on the name and email people back and forth. So again, that was under participants. All right, if you click on it, don't look down here where it says my name, but up on the screen comes up your groups. So I think that works. I'm getting conflicting information on that. Has anybody tried that to verify that? Like I said, I'm getting conflicting information on that. And I showed all class members. And it says it does work to view groups. Okay. Participants works for me. Okay. Yes, we can see the group members. So I think you want to make sure, when you say, Gary, it shows all class members, you mean just the group, or do you mean the whole class? Like, is there 3 or 4 in there, or is there like 30 in there? Whole class. I think, and I'm not an expert on this, I'll be honest with you, but I think you want to make sure, and maybe you are, that you're in the actual group. You know, so you have to click on that group before you click on participants. Okay, and I think that's the key. If I click on it here, I think then I'm not showing this. I think it shows everybody. But if you go in the actual group, you know, in the group form, and then click on it, I think it may show just those participants. Try it and let me know. And another thing about the groups is we're going to have a lot of groups. I'm trying to label them, you know, clearly. So make sure, you know, you're going to be a member of a lot of the groups because you're going to be a member of a group in each lab, basically. So make sure, I'm trying to name them, you know, the Gamma Lab or Protein Lab. Just, you know, the name is obvious, but you just want to make sure you pick the right group. Okay, so what else? There is a lab at the end. Some people were asking about this that I have you do. It's called the Social Security Lab. Very interesting lab that I will count. It's kind of an extra lab that I will replace your lowest lab score with. So that's the Social Security Lab. It's the very last week. You know, kind of, you know, this week you have a couple labs due, then you have to post them as a group, individual Thursday, post them as a group Monday, and then next week, that's the only thing you do other than study and take the midterm. All right, so this one is right before the final, the Social Security Lab. And it's an interesting one. You know, we're all hopeful that that will be there when we retire. We all have various times until retirement. You know, it goes into the detail how they calculate your Social Security, which I think is important for everybody to know. So I would encourage you to do that one. Now, in this strategy and STD lab, I asked you to email the table to me once you get it. Oh, my mic's sounding weird. Is it still sounding weird? It's okay now. I think I had my hand in front of my mouth. Um, I asked you to email me the table in that strategy and STD lab so I can verify that it's right. Because once you get that table, you answer a lot of questions based on that table. So you want to make sure that table is right. So go ahead, you can just email that to me and I will tell you if it's right or not. And then we talked about the subscription of new posts. We talked about that. We talked about the announcements block that I put on Moodle, which is this latest news. So basically, whenever I send an announcement, it'll go here, but I also send it out as an email as well. And then the last thing, just to remind everybody, up in the Academic Success Center, they have math tutors, free professional math tutors, 10 to 2, 5 to 7 or 8 Monday through Thursday, and 10 to 2 on Friday. All right, so make sure if you need to take advantage of that, you take advantage of that. You can also request a peer tutor, which is kind of a one-on-one tutoring. That's free. That's a free service as well. So keep that in mind. Academic Success Center up in Moore Hall 206. I think that's all I had to say. Any questions for me? You know, at any time, you're free to email me or stop by my office if you have any, or call me if you have any questions. The air conditioning's out in Pan Hall right now, so we've been kind of avoiding that building as much as we can. But email, call, stop by. Anytime you have a question, you're more than welcome to do any of that. You know, more than happy to help. And I'm getting a lot of questions, you know, a lot of emails, which is good. Especially you start studying for that final. Start studying for that final. You have any questions that pop up, let me know. Do you check, here's another question. Do you check individual questions on the WebAssign work? I do. What do you mean by individual questions? Those are usually self-graded, so I really don't check those. I check the overall scores, but I don't go into detail on the individual ones. Other questions? Well, again, you have any questions, please feel free to email or, you know, stop by or call, or if you have any concerns. I'm getting a lot of emails. I think the labs are working out. I'm starting to get more excited with how the posting's going after looking at the first 2 labs that I looked at, but feel free to contact me. All right. And if we stop this meeting, you have questions right afterwards, give me an email. Anything else before we sign off? All right. Thank you all for showing up. And again, it is recorded. It takes a little bit of a process to post it, convert it to YouTube, but it'll be up there for your viewing pleasure. Hopefully today. I'll email everybody when we put that up there. Thank you again. Have a good day.